Much of this game, particularly during the run chase, there was a nice little orange tint to the entire run chase, looking like the first points on the board for Hyderabad. Somebody had other ideas, and a shade of turquoise enveloped the DY Patil Stadium towards the very end. A final over of 3 wickets for Jason Holder, but before that, a bit of the damage had been done. Avesh Khan outstanding, his best figures in the tournament, 4 for 24 in his 4 overs. And despite the efforts of Rahul Tripathi and Nicholas Puran towards the end, it was just not enough. They were in charge and allowed it to go back to Lucknow. They'd be delighted with Lucknow to have defended that total in a tournament where it's not been easy to have defended totals. Here on Cricbuzz Live, we'll try and make some sense of what just happened there. I'm Gautam Bhimani in the company of Ajay, Jadeja and Bhattacharjya. Ajay, I mean, of course, one team has to end up on the losing side. But when you've been in charge for a large percentage of the game, that hurts more.
Yeah, this one will hurt really badly because the last win, they were blown away right at the top. So you can understand you had no choice. Here, I mean, first at the start, you saw Abhishek and Kane Williamson playing kind of shots that you generally don't, at least with Kane Williamson, you didn't expect that. But they came back, and at halfway stage, you thought they would, walk to this total, and then losing that wicket in the 11th over. And from there on, it's just been, you've got batting till number 8. Romario Shepherd bats at number 8. So you'd think, if the pressure was ever of, getting those scores or the run rate had gone beyond something, you can understand. But this is something that they've got themselves to blame.
And some clever bowling changes, you'd have to say, Joy, from KL Rahul. Just knew who to bring on at the right time. Just when you thought Krunal Pandya was done for the day, he comes in, he picks up a wicket. Then he brings Avesh Khan on at the right times. And you can see the comparison over there. 11 and over they were going at to finish the innings. Wickets lost really aren't a factor at that stage. But for the chasing side, the 5 wickets in that 16 to 20 are massive.
5 wickets and 37 in 5 overs. I mean, you average 7 in the last 5 overs. I mean, that's a ridiculous percentage. And I think that's the thing that they did very well. Avesh, that 18th over from Avesh Khan, that's the key because Puran is still batting out there. Actually, not even the 18th over, from the second ball of the 18th over, because the first ball he whacks for a 6. And you think at that point in time, with that many balls in hand, the game is over. And then he gets a wicket and there's another wicket in that over. That's a 7-run over. That completely changes the game. And this spell is a sensational spell because Avesh Khan was under pressure. And remember one more thing. This guy is no longer a 20 lakh, 30 lakh player for the Delhi Capitals. He's like a 10 lakh buy. He's a spearhead fast bowler. So there's pressure on him. And he just came through so wonderfully. He came through splendidly.
Yeah, he said 10 crore buy, of course. You meant, Joy?
What did I say? 10 lakh?
Yes. Here was all Avesh Khan fans wondering, where did the money go? Yeah, he was a 10 lakh, 20 lakh, 30 lakh, 50 lakh kind of player, as you said, to start with. And then once you've got that burden on your shoulders to deliver for a different franchise, a new franchise, certainly was outstanding. But yeah, you'd have to, I mean, often, Ajay, we've been talking about trying to look at captains and see how they've done, particularly new captains. And in Rahul's case, we're only saying new captain because it's captaining a new franchise. And today he completely looks switched on and in charge.
Yeah, he looks in charge. He looks, he's got a roadmap. He knows how he wants to go about because both the games that, we watched, it's a pattern that they go by. I mean, some people may agree with it, some may not. They've got a pattern. Each one bowls at every different stage. And even if you look at the scores that the opposition's made is very similar as well. Whether it's the power play, first 5 overs, second 5, third 5, fourth 5, everything is going at the same pace. And that's one reason is because of what you say. KL Rahul controlled his bowlers. He knew exactly when to bring on who. And they're sure of what they're trying to do. I don't think they're moving too much with the score or what's happening at the other end. They have an idea that this is how we want to play. When a certain batsman comes in, that's the bowler that's going to bowl. And they just kept going with that. And it went their way. They kept their nerves. I mean, you got to say they kept their nerves and they believed in their the matchup or match play that they wanted to play. Whereas with Sunrisers, you thought, they probably panicked a bit too soon, when they sent in Washington Sundar ahead of some others well. But when you lose, there are enough things to find and look and say, oh, this could have gone wrong, that could have gone wrong. And when you win, KL Rahul looks like a brilliant captain because it's exactly what he wanted to do, and he did, and he ended up being on the winning side.
And
Nothing. I mean, I'm saying you didn't see anything special that he created, or when they were out of the game, he brought in somebody or kept somebody away. You know the pattern now with them, and that's exactly he stuck to that.
yeah, and he'd be more glad, Joy, if you have a look at the bowling figures, that his spearhead, in a sense, his wicket taker, Ravi Bishnoi, had an off day, 4 overs, none for 29. Again, not the worst spell in the world, but wicketless. He's a wicket taker. And therefore, he was able to turn to somebody like a Krunal to pick up a couple of wickets. Avesh was brilliant. And then just the icing on the cake was the replacement for Dushman Tachamira, Jason Holder.
Absolutely. And I think, look, Andrew Ty was expensive. Notice today, last time they bowled Deepak Hooda, he was effective for them. He got something out of it. Today, the matchups didn't work for whatever reason it was. At that point in time, I think Puran hadn't come in. And after that, they just wanted to use Bishnoi to attack Puran. So they didn't go with Deepak Hooda because Bishnoi had that 16th over, if you remember, which is quite late for a spinner. So I think, look, they played it well. And they've got Deepak Hooda's 4 overs in their back pocket as well. So those 6 bowlers are going to be the key. They're going to play around with these guys. Andrew Ty was expensive, and every time they'll probably look at it and wonder whether they want an out-and-out fast bowler like Chamira instead. But I think what they are also thinking about is that as the pitches deteriorate, bowlers like Ty will probably become more and more useful to them in any case. As the pitches deteriorate, they get slower. Jadeja Unadkats and the Andrew Tys of this world will become more and more important to the game. So I think that's why they're also giving an extended run. Ajay, I'd be interested in knowing, in your understanding, was this pitch a bit more spongy than the previous occasions, or does it have the same amount of bounce as it had last time?
Definitely slower than the last one. Not that lateral movement that we saw at the start of every game. That is going down, but not spongy. I don't think Jadeja was wicket at any stage. You think? Yes, I mean that Bishnoi over you said, but that matchup is different. I mean, for us, he's a leg spinner. Stats are showing you 68% or 70% is googly. The rest of the 20% is flipper, and we're still waiting for that leg spin to happen. So he's actually a matchup for a left-hander. I don't think wicket because what stage of the game. There was a very interesting graphic, Jadeja, when our director had put up of how they scored runs. So if you look at that, every 5-over spell, whether it was the new ball, whether it was the middle stage, whether it was the end, yeah, there you go. I mean, the last one, you got to count it out because, add those 5 dot balls instead of wickets, and 5 singles also makes it 40. So I don't think the wicket was, any different from what we've seen. Yes, it will get, slower and slower as time goes, but I don't think, SRH can say, it was a wicket that got us. What actually makes a difference at this ground, Jadeja, is that, the boundaries are very large compared to Brabant, compared to Wankhede, and even at Pune. So when the boundaries are so long, at the end, when other games, every time you hit something in the air, it goes out of the ground. Whereas here you have a chance to pick up a wicket. So maybe that's why the slower one comes in a little more effective than the other grounds, not the wicket.
But as long as one man was out there for the men in orange, they looked like they were cantering. And that was Rahul Tripathi. Williamson had departed, Abhishek Sharma had departed, and Puran hadn't yet got going, but Rahul Tripathi was absolutely outstanding. Fans of the Purple Army will be looking and saying, why did we let him go, Joy? But he went back. He had an off day one day, but he went back to the Rahul Tripathi that we know, the busy player that he is.
Busy player, very, very few. Interesting again, I think he had about 4 dot balls, and that's something that you really like about him. Also, this is the kind of ground where you get, thanks to the size of the ground, you get to see more 2s and even the occasional 3, which you don't even see nowadays in the IPL. 2s are rare, 3s are even rarer. And I think those are the kind of things Rahul Tripathi brings to you. Busy player, also attacks when he has the opportunity. He's not somebody, even if the early wicket goes down, he still goes after the bowling. He is the guy who actually set the pace with Makram before that mini collapse happened, and then Puran and got it together for a while before finally everything went. So 2 big partnerships really. That Tripathi partnership with Ed Makram and then Puran, of course, with Sundar. Both threatening partnerships, sadly, not enough.
Yep, and you can see that all the wickets that have fallen have been caught, and that's not necessarily something we've seen in the tournament so far. We've seen enough for share. Yesterday we saw a couple of inside edges for bowls, for LBWs, but it probably shows the mindset, the fact that so many were caught, particularly towards the end. They were looking to go aerial and finish it, and perhaps the size of the ground was one of the factors that let them down. But one other interesting aspect, world over, we've been talking about it, a brand new rule that is going to be effective in other forms of the game come October, but the IPL has already adapted it, starting with this tournament. And that is, of course, if the ball is hit up in the air, we all talk about, did the batsman cross? First thing the third umpire asks, doesn't matter now. No matter whether the batsman crosses or not, the new batsman will take strike. Today, Ajay, we had a perfect example of why it went against them. Goes up in the air, new batsman has to take strike. Romario is dying for the strike.
Yeah, I don't know what made them change that rule, ICC, because this has been the rule from ever since I can remember, or ever since I've been reading about the game. Forget about watching it. So I don't know why they've done that, but it will certainly change the game of cricket, and especially the format 2020. I mean, we saw that today with Romario Shepherd, who could do it. I think the last over will be played differently now on. In the last 2-3 games, I felt that, maybe the captains and the teams have already figured that out. We're talking here later. The reason why you 19th over somebody's bowling, I have a feeling a lot of spinners you'll see in the last over, because anybody who's at the other end has almost no role to play unless the guy at the striker's end finishes the game off. Because if he hits it in the air, there's no way the non-striker is going to get to that end. It's not about crossing anymore. So for me, it's a change of the whole sport. I mean, the way the game's played. And a lot of overs, a lot of games had won or lost if you didn't have a guy who was thinking at that time or was not aware of the game situation. They didn't cross, they didn't run. All that is out of the game. Now it's all about skill. Just stand there and hit. Make sure that the guy you want at your end will have to be standing at the right end. So a big change in this game. I don't know, why this has been done, because a lot of rules are changed, either for timing or something's gone wrong. This is one change which is going to change the game of cricket. I mean, especially the last over.
Joy, do you find a rationale to that? Because we've seen several examples in this tournament where it has made a difference.
No, this definitely. I mean, Romario Shepherd standing and watching the mayhem at the other end today is a perfect example of that. But see, that's my point, that I think where it came about, and I think I was reading a couple of umpires writing about this, apparently the decision of two batsmen crossing, and exactly at what point are they crossing and who has the best view that they have actually crossed each other, that was the question in doubt. And there were some places where if you are right next to each other, have you crossed, have you not crossed? At what point? Like, when there's a bowling mark, there's a line out there that delineates, okay, have you stepped over the line? Are you on the line, which is also a no ball? Are you behind the line? Here, there's no particular place. There's one point at which some people are crossing. You're here. You're both next to each other. Have you crossed? Haven't you crossed? And so that call has always been a judgment call by an umpire. And I think they just want to eliminate that. Having said that, there's something called the law of unintended consequences. So they wanted to get rid of this umpires having this thing. But I think tactically, as Ajay said, it will have a huge impact on the game, which probably they may not have thought through as much as, they're saying, okay, this is easy. Let us make it a rule that umpires cannot misinterpret, because that's what they're trying to make sure the rules are as difficult to misinterpret as possible.
Joyda, what are the umpires going to do now? Because every call that they make are challenged. Through the pandemic, we've seen they don't even hold the caps. So we might as well go to a nice advertising hoarding, because at least it'll give you some revenue, and put a camera in there, and even the umpire's call can be eliminated. Because this game is still where it was. I mean, we've changed every rule with the umpires. There's a DRS, there's everything. But still, what everybody wanted is that no decision should be half-hearted. It should be clear-cut. And here we are today. We had what's his name? Ian Lewis batting at the start. First, when umpire gave him not out, he was out. He was going to hit the wicket, or impact was umpire's call. When he was given out, it was the same thing. So till what distance are we going to go with umpires, or are we just eliminating the umpires out of the game?
Yeah, I fully agree with Ajay on that one, in terms of the umpire's call being inconsistent, depending on whether the on-field umpire's given it or not. A lot of people feel if it was hitting the stumps, I mean, clearly missing is clearly missing. If it's hitting the stumps, whether slightly or not slightly, it should be out one way or the other. But Joy, I'll do a final counterpoint to what you just said. We've both been in broadcast for a long time and behind the scenes. The television directors and people who are manning the EVS machines, which are the electronic video edit machines, they have been trained to be looking out for whether the batsman crossed or not, because the umpire will ask in close situations, and it goes upstairs, and it's very clear if television helps you.
It is very clear. Again, that's one of the things that you see, the people making the laws at MCC do not expect the television broadcast will bail them out, because your laws are going to be, work perfectly well for the IPL. What happens when you're playing a second division county match if the same rule applies? So basically, they try and make a rule that applies all the way down. You're absolutely right. When it comes to international cricket broadcast, there is absolutely no dichotomy. They'll probably break it up frame by frame by frame. As we do runouts today. So there's no dichotomy at all. But I think they just want to be consistent down the line, as they say.
Fair point. I think I'll take that in terms of non-televised games or games not televised in HD. You will have a bit of a dichotomy in terms of taking that call. So that's where it stands right now. At the end of the day, it was Lucknow winning the game. Maybe not because of that rule, but certainly aided slightly towards the end by that. What does it do to the points table? It means that Sunrisers stay on 0. This time, having played 2 games. They've had a long wait for their second game, and once again, they've come up short. Mumbai, Chennai, Hyderabad, yet to get off the mark. Chennai will hurt even more. They've had 3 games without getting off the mark, and look at Lucknow flying high, getting into that big group of 4 at the moment, just falling behind in terms of net run rate. But long way to go, but they've certainly made a step in the right direction. That's as far as Monday night was concerned. But if we have a look at Tuesday, the action comes thick and fast. And we're going to have 2 very prominent teams in Rajasthan and Bangalore. This should be an absolute cracker, because Rajasthan have been in red hot form. Bangalore, we know, despite whatever way the results go in their previous game, they're an exciting side to watch. And of course, inevitably, the conversation will turn to Virat Kohli. But at the moment, Ajay, before we talk about Virat Kohli, it's the men in pink who should be at the moment the most talked about team in the tournament.
Yeah, they're right at the top, and they're playing well. They've got the best bowling attack, as I see it. Got 3 guys who play for India, 3 attacking bowlers. Then you add, even Navdeep Saini, if you add with him, he's also played for India. So that's the kind of bowling you have. Trent Bolt. So that's what is making a big difference throughout the year. Batting, yes, Jaiswal still young man. Devdutt Padikkal's impressed immensely. He's not getting his slot to open, but he's looked good. Sanju Samson's been fabulous. Well, real surprise and consistency that I've seen with Shimron Hetmeyer, because you associate big hitting with him, but he's been so consistent. He comes in at the end, does the job, whether it's 12 ball 30 or 10 ball 20. He's been doing that. If a little gap somewhere there, it is Riyan Parag, but that's their man. He's their lucky mascot for last few years. They've invested heavily in him, and he should come good somewhere. So that side, when you look, it looks like a real solid side, and especially if they're bowling, and if there's something in the wicket, Ashwin and Chahal together is a great combination to have.
Not just their man, Ajay, Joy's man as well, Riyan Parag. Let's not forget.
Do not do this to me. My Riyan Parag conversations are not going to make me popular in Assam. But no, just generally, because...
But Joy, just to add one more aspect to Riyan Parag, and since we talk about matchups and new franchises, DDP up against Bangalore, there'll be a little needle there.
Yep. And I still think DDP is probably... I know they promised Jaiswal the top slot, but I still genuinely feel Jaiswal can bat at 3. They should give DDP a chance to open. I somehow feel that's the one difference I do. The other interesting thing is, what happens if you're considered unfit for the national team? You come and smash it in the IPL. Shimron Hetmeyer, Rajapakse, they're just coming and telling the selectors, you know what, I might not clear a couple of yo-yos, but when I hit the ball, it stays hit. Just what power pack players this guy's have. It's just amazing to watch them. And these are, as I said, these are guys at the top of their ability. Hetmeyer is always known as a big hitter. But the fact that he could pace his innings the way he did, pick his shots the way he did, I think that maturity, whether it's because the hair is now pink instead of blue, I don't know. But something out there has changed, I know.
Yeah, they spend a lot of time.
The paycheck.
Yeah, they spend a lot of time in the salons making sure which franchise are we playing for. All right, Andre Russell's got it done, purple and gold, and Shimron Hetmeyer, nice bright pink. We're going to have to wait to see Russell, but Shimron Hetmeyer will be in action fairly soon. But if we have a look at the opposition and try and steer the conversation past Virat Kohli, certainly the start of the tournament for them has been all about their new captain, not just as a captain, Ajay, but with bat in hand. We mentioned at the very start, that he would have no national distractions, not thinking about form, not thinking about having to run away before the tournament's over, which is helping Faf du Plessis a lot.
It is helping, and it gives him that solidity, because they actually play pretty similar. Him and Virat Kohli. Not trying to compare them, please. Virat Kohli fans probably would get after me, but I mean, they play in similar style. They take their time. Once they get in, they make big scores, and they hold that innings together. So instead of having one Virat Kohli, they've got solidity there, and it allows him to play his way as well. So, and he brings in all the experience from how Chennai used to play in IPL. I'm sure he's heard so much about every other player, so he uses all that experience. And he's not a new captain. I mean, he's captain South Africa with great success. The only reason he wasn't captaining was, something to do outside the ground and nothing to do with the team. And he is one of those leaders. I mean, he is a leader, and he's leading them pretty well. It's the start of the tournament. He's fitted in beautifully. That innings also that he had, at the start you felt, oh, it's too slow. And then eventually he managed to, take the strike rate where they all wanted it to. Faf is fitted in beautifully for RCB. They've always had big stars. They're waiting for one more to come. I don't know if he's available tomorrow, or does he come in? Is he available? The big show?
Well, I know he's arrived. Because they certainly put it out very much on social media that Maxwell has arrived, but there's no confirmation about whether he's actually available to play or not, because he certainly walks into the team, Joy. If we can just hang on to that for a second. Anuj Rawat, impressive in the opening game, but is he your long-term solution for the season? And of course, the return of Maxwell, Joy.
No, absolutely. Return of Maxwell, definitely. I think he walks in for Sherfane at this point in time, because I think they'll hang on. David Willey's been interesting for them. He's done well for them. That's the other place. The option is to also replace David Willey and give yourself a little bit more. But David Willey's done well for them. Even the last match, he bowled pretty early and he did well for them. I think this again is a team that depends on getting early wickets, and they know that they've got one really good death bowler in Harshal Patel. Shahbaz Ahmed's done well for them. The point is that their batting needs to fire, and except for Faf, nobody has really fired. Remember, last match they were just chasing 128 odd and 130 odd, so that wasn't difficult. And finally, it was basically Willey and Rutherford and Shahbaz Ahmed who had to rescue them. So the top order, other than Faf, has not really fired. Anuj Rawat has done okay for that one match, but the rest of them have not fired. Virat has not fired, and therefore, at some point in time, they need that top order to be a bit more consistent.
Yeah, we whether you try and steer clear or not, you'd have to say he's due for a big one. We've been talking about it a lot across formats, but we're not going into that 100 territory or anything anymore. Purely from Virat Kohli being Virat Kohli, from Bangalore getting to winning ways and staying in winning ways, you'd have to have him along with Faf, along with Maxwell when he comes. When the three of them get together and fire, watch out opposition.
Yeah, I mean, three of them firing. I mean, then the bowlers would be, where are they going to hide? And especially tomorrow's game is in Wankhede. So, batting is something that you normally don't worry about. And Virat Kohli is somebody you shouldn't. I mean, he got a good one from Umesh Yadav last time. Well, what change we see with him is, he's coming aggressive. He's coming out aggressive, not the normal style, taking 8-10 balls. He's already got a 6 within those first 8-10 balls. So he's coming out aggressive, and I won't worry too much. I mean, that was a decent ball, not just him. 4 or 5 guys got out early. The wicket was seaming. If the wicket is similar to what we've seen in Wankhede, with the ball seaming around, then yes, anybody, I mean, whether you're Virat Kohli or not, a good ball is a good ball to you. So except for that, I mean, I won't worry about Virat Kohli, honestly. It's just that if there is any worry that I have is that, he's changing his style. So when he changes the style of play that he's trying to, or he's playing it aggressive right from the start, you may not get what you used to get earlier. So you may not get the consistency, but you'll get the strike rate and a different style of Virat Kohli, which is possibly the case this time, or the plan that they have, because they have Faf to do the other job that he was doing last time. And maybe he wants to play differently. He wants to play freely as well. He's had the burden of the team for so long. He's saying, now you're the new captain. You keep the burden. I want to just go out there and enjoy and wait for that day when it comes good.
But I think the one good thing we'll have to keep saying, and of course his fans will notice every sinew of everything he does on the field, is he always enjoys everybody else's success. But now, without being captain, we're seeing him all the more vocal, jumping up and down. And you're saying, what's he done? No, it's the other guy who's hit a boundary. It's the other guy who's got to 50. Somebody's taken a wicket and he's jumping around like a little child who's just been given 3 ice creams instead of 1.
No, I think Virat has always been, you can never, the best of it, he has been the most generous of players. When he walks out to greet Dhoni, when he was the RCB captain and India captain, and Dhoni was his former captain at CSK, no longer his captain, the warmth with which he greets him, you can make out there's so much respect in that relationship. His relationship with, somebody like, forget Faf du Plessis, his relationship with De Villiers, it's one for the ages. And, when De Villiers was talking about it, he said it was almost embarrassing because, when you're playing for South Africa versus India, you don't want an opposition player to be so friendly to you. And he's like trying to say, and the South African saying, God, your friends come again. And, that's the thing, he's so warm, and that's the one thing about his personality that shows out. And right now, he's also not under that pressure. So he's slightly more carefree so that those gestures show more often. But this is Virat. This is why India loves Virat. This is what makes the sense of him. That he's not just a great player, but he's a fantastic human being.
Well, one thing's for sure, the matchup should be absolutely outstanding. Rajasthan against Bangalore. It is going to be a terrific Tuesday, no matter which way the mat ends up going. We're going to have some great individual performances and lots to look forward to. We'll, of course, be there from 7 o'clock in the evening. For now, we've got the one other question to answer. Sunrisers couldn't answer every question tonight, but Joy, you can answer this one for us.
Okay. Which is cricketing family? 3 brothers, 1 state team, 1 state squad. Third held a test record at one time. One of their children holds a T20I record, and the family is, of course, definitely the Healy family. Greg, Ian, obviously we know, and Elisa. Obviously, Ian is the one who, Ian Healy held the wicket-keeping record for test dismissals before it was overtaken by Boucher. And of course, Elisa recently, she's scored the highest ever T20 score in the T20 international score. Amazing family. Great also to see Stark go out and see his wife play a final again. So that was also.
And a final where she had, not necessarily a record, but 170 in a World Cup final, a la Ricky Ponting in 2003 against India. And a lovely photograph doing the rounds on social media. 2015 final, Stark with the trophy, Elisa behind him. 2022 final, Lisa with the trophy, Stark duly standing behind.
It's a brave new world, and the world is better for situations like this.
All right, and who's our winner? As far as this particular question is concerned, were you starting to think of the Taylors and the Chappells and various other Australian families? The answer is Indranil Das, Simeon Wolverine. That's a name we've heard before. So well done to Indranil for picking up that. Friend of yours, Joy?
No, I'm just trying to wonder. Simeon means ape-like. Wolverine is an animal which is, not wolf-like, but a wolverine is a different kind of animal. So I'm wondering which spirit animal is he channeling when he answers this.
All right. So since you won it, since you're regular on Twitter with us, hashtag Cricbuzz Live. Before the next show, let us know the rationale behind @Simeon Wolverine. Okay? We're going to wait to hear from you, and we'll talk about it on this show if it's a creative enough answer. Right, that's all the time we have. 9 minutes before midnight. We're going to wrap up here. It's been a fabulous victory for Lucknow, an unfortunate one that's going to hurt for the Sunrisers, but that's how it goes. Still a long way to go in the tournament. Ajay, Jadeja, thank you very much for joining us and for your thoughts. Joy, once again, thank you for yours. And to everybody who's joined us in Cricbuzz Live, we love having you, and we'll see you all very soon on Cricbuzz Live.